Well, let's see. Today we're going to be continuing with a little bit of work on backbending. And what we've been doing that with that is just looking at elements of backbending to make sure that they're all in place so the backbending can be, well, maybe not effortless, but easier and safer. So that'll be a part of today. And to that end, we need, let's see, what props do we need? You can see I've got a chair here, a yoga chair, but something like that would be handy. A bolster, a block, and a belt. And, of course, your mat. So with no further ado, we can begin. So let's begin. Just come on up and grab your bolster. And if you place it in the middle of your mat lengthwise, and then have a seat somewhere close to the end of it. And legs are bent, feet on the floor, and you're propping yourself up with your hands. So test the water here. Try now lying down with your buttocks propped up. So where my bolster is just about at the back of my waist. If I wanted a little bit more opening through my chest, which I'm going to do by moving buttocks forward. So now the bolster is at the bottom of my shoulder blades. So see if that works for you. If it feels like it's too strong a back bending movement to start with for you, you could just have your feet up on the bolster. That reduces the curve of your lower back. Or just without the bolster, 2 feet on the floor and your back supported by your mat. And while you're there, then focus on your breath. And as you bring that focus into play, feel the breath in your abdomen. And notice if you're holding any tension there. And with more of an abdominal breath, on every successive exhalation, release any tightness that you feel in that area. So you inhale, and then you exhale, and it's like deflating a balloon, and the abdominal wall is soft. Release any tension in the upper back, where the shoulder blades are, the shoulders. And I've just rested my hands on the hip bones, and I'm going to move them up to where my bottom rib cage are. And maybe you can feel the breath now in the lower ribs. So full inhalation, full exhalation, but without any sense of straining. And a little more of that letting go on the exhalations. With the legs bent, your feet on the floor, relax the inner thighs. Feel the groins relax down into the pelvis. And then finally bring your fingertips to the top of your chest. There's your clavicle, your collarbones, and the ends of your collarbones. And feel the breath with a little bit more emphasis on the upper part of your chest. So every inhalation allows the breath to spread and perhaps widen the top front chest. And then the exhalation's just a letting go. And now let's leave off, if you were supported on the bolster, just push it down away from the buttocks and slide the buttocks back off the bolster. Now you're lying with your back completely supported, your head supported. I'm just going to get the bolster out of the way, and then we can move on to Apanasana. Bend your knees up to your chest. Hold at the front of your knees, your hands on your patellas, and then allow the knees to move away from you, straight arms. Draw the knees in, exhaling. Inhaling, maybe feeling the breath in all those three parts that we emphasize, the belly, the diaphragm, and the upper chest. When you exhale, there's a little squeezy kind of feeling through the area of the digestive organs and the organs of elimination. And keep going. We'll go for a few more cycles, and you might introduce a slight adjustment to the pelvis, where when you bring your knees towards you, you're moving the sitting bones slightly towards the floor. Knees come in and sitting bones downwards towards the floor. And last one, knees in, squeezing, and then releasing the feet to the floor. And just drop your arms by your side. While we're here, we'll introduce a floor twist and have your feet apart. You can have them relatively wide, maybe as wide as your mat, and your arms out at a distance from the sides of your ribs. Then simply allow your knees to drop to the right, look to the left. Reverse, and always with the breath, look to the right, drop your knees to the left. And then pause in the center, knees upright. And then let's introduce a little bit more of a lateral stretch, the side body stretch. Extend your left arm overhead, and then drop your knees to the right. Look to the right, towards your right arm, and bring your chin towards your collarbone. Let's reverse that. Knees come up, right arm overhead, knees to the left, and then looking to the left and chin towards your collarbone. Next time you go to the right side, and then left arms overhead. See if you can rock up a little bit onto that shoulder blade. So I'm lifting my buttock on the left side, and then back to center, and over. Looking left, stretching right, and a little lift onto the right, left shoulder blade. Good, back to center. One more round. If you like that, then you can go a little further with it. Or if it's not feeling exactly what you want to do at this time, then hold back a little bit or wind back. Next time that you go to the left, let's keep going over to the left so that you can come up to a standing position. And all the way up to standing. All right, and then here we are facing the long end of the mat. And let's do a little warm-up for various parts of our body, the joints of our body. So standing with your feet slightly apart, then allow your hips to slightly sway side to side. And then allow your arms to swing a little with that movement. And your upper spine and your head to rotate. So really gentle. And we can bring the movement up through our anatomy. So you're tapping the outside of your thighs, unless your arms would be very long, and then you might be tapping your knees. I don't think that applies to any of us. And then bring your hands up a little bit higher and tap the sides of your hips. That area, sides of your hips. glute medius, very important for stability. And then bringing hands up a little bit higher and tapping, let's say, the iliac crest, the two hip bones that protrude at the front of your hips. And if you bring your hands up a little bit higher where the solar plexus is, you might be tapping the outer ribs. And a little bit higher, tapping your shoulders, the ends of your collarbones. And finally, maybe the sides of your neck, where the carotid arteries are. A little anatomy lesson. And then winding back down and coming to a standstill. And just for the sake of your hips, let's do a few hip circles. Let's see. Arms are loose. And circling the other way. Of course, the hips are the emphasis, but then this ripples up the spine, the back of the neck, the head. What if we try for figure 8? So left hip forward, right hip back, right hip forward, left hip back. And circumscribing a figure 8, if you're able to figure that out. Okay, good. And very nice. And then just give it all a shake out, legs and feet and hands and so forth. And I learned a very nice warm-up for the shoulder blades in a session that I did with Libby Nelson, in a session that she was doing on shoulders. So if you have a wall space there, hope you have a wall space, and you can move back and come to rest your back onto that wall. And I've got my feet a little ways away from the wall and my buttocks slightly away from the wall. So in your stance, your comfortable stance, just having a little technical problem here. Okay, hopefully you can hear me again. Your shoulder blades meet the wall. And you might take a moment, this is a revelation for me, when I have my shoulder blades resting at the wall. I kind of knew this, but you might not find that they rest evenly. So I have a right shoulder blade that wings out a little bit, and the left shoulder blade is flush to the wall. So you might just kind of nuzzle in there, see if you can get the shoulder blades a little bit even, but then it might be the case that you can't do that completely, and that's fine. So add a little pressure to the shoulder blades, and when you do that, tips of the shoulders come back and you kind of reduce any stooping in the upper back. That takes a little bit of effort, so now release from that effort and allow the arms to relax and the shoulders to relax. And then let's go again with the pressure and adding light pressure to the shoulder blades onto the back, and feel that. And also feel which way they move. Do they move down? Do they move in? Do they move out? And then release that effort. Relax. And third time, adding the pressure there. And you might have changed the configuration of your shoulder blades with that effort. And then relax completely. And let's do one more movement, which we started when we were in the lying down position, which is a lateral movement. So let's raise the right arm alongside your right ear, and the arms resting back towards the wall, and then extend that arm, and extend the left arm down by your side. And then we can do a little of that lateral side bending, and then feel how the shoulder blade works. Are both shoulder blades still able to be in contact with the wall? And then upright again and all the way up. And bringing that arm down and by your side. And then left arm up. Good. And then curious and interested in what you discover when you go, and that lateral movement to the right side, both shoulder blades, and then back up. Let's do that one more time. So now you've got kind of a baseline of how the shoulder blades are working. And the shoulder blade elevates. And these are really important areas, the scapula, for back bending. And then back up to upright. And last one, we'll just go slowly here and make any discoveries about your own body as you go along. Right arm comes down a little bit more. Left arm over, shoulder blades retain contact, and back up. Beautiful. And then let's step away from the wall. And take a moment. It's always good to consolidate after you've done movements and exercise and asanas, and just see what the effect is on the body. How does that feel on the dorsal thoracic, on the back body? All right, and then continuing this kind of work with the back of the body, which we can very rarely see, and exploring that area. Let's take clock pose. So back to the wall and be side standing with your right side facing the wall. And then bring your right arm up and place the flat of your right palm firmly into the wall. And there's a little distance between your feet and the wall, little hip distance. And then notice if you elevated the left shoulder. So drop the left shoulder and feel the movement that you created through the upper back, and what mobility there is in lifting that arm. Good. And notice what happens too when you press your hands and the work in the upper arm muscles. Okay, good. The reason this is called clock pose is that we're on the hands. The right arm is the hand of a clock. So having a look at your right hand, see if you can take it back a little bit behind the line of the body. As you do, you've gone from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, say. Your body turns towards the wall. Press into your palm, and then see if it's there for you to turn slightly away from the wall. If that creates tingling in your arms or kind of a nerve discomfort, then you have to back off. You don't want to go too far, too fast with this. Right? And then looking at the clock dial again, just if it's there for you and you want to go back a little bit further, taking the hand to 2 o'clock or so and turning slightly, turn your head, turn your ribs away from the wall. Too strong for you? Don't worry, just back off a little bit. Bring your arm forward and down, and let's go the other side. Oh, pause. How does that arm feel? That arm just loose, hanging by your side. Mine feels a little bit lighter. All right, then let's switch. And left side facing the wall, left arm up. Good, so you're reaching for the ceiling. The left shoulder blade wings out a little bit away from the spine and elevates. And then pressure to the hand. Feel those upper arm muscles. The right arm relaxed by your side. Anti-clockwise, you might move your hand back a little bit if that feels good. You can create a nice neck movement here if your head rotates easily, looking towards the right shoulder. And then another movement back. Check that out. Be respectful of any limits that your body is showing you. Press your palm. Good, and then releasing, and that left arm down and by your side. Okay, let's continue working with the upper part of your body and shoulder blades and so on. I'm just going to make an adjustment here again. And take up that chair and place it at the end of your mat. Yeah, do have it on the mat so it doesn't slip. And take a kneeling position in front of the chair. And then bring one elbow onto the edge of the chair. My lovely yoga chairs are padded, so if you need a blanket under your elbow, this is a good time to get that blanket. And then your elbow is right at the end of the chair near to you. Bring your hands together in prayer position, and then bring your knees back away from the edge of the chair, the legs of the chair, and rest your forehead. So where your hairline is at the top of your forehead, resting your head there. And then do 2 movements at the same time. Press your palms towards each other so you can feel the backs of the palms pressing, the thumbs pressing the fingers. And at the same time, you're moving the elbows as though you're moving the elbows out, away from each other. And notice if you get a sense of being able to widen your chest with that movement, and maybe widen your shoulder blades too. Keep your emphasis, palms pressing, elbows moving out. All right, and then let's take a break from this and shuffle your knees in. We're going to come up to standing. Grab hold of the sides of the chair, and as you're standing, move back slightly away from the chair for a modified dog pose stretch. And feel that for yourself as you're able now. Extending armpit to elbow, and maybe the outer shoulder blades towards the elbows. So getting the length from that lateral body there. And then step in. And let's go one more round. I don't know if this has a formal name, but I call it chest opener. And let that be the emphasis. So palms together, head resting again, the spine in one long continuous line, and pressing your palms together, pressing your elbows out. Now, I'm getting a sense here that I can wrap my shoulder blades around my outer ribs. So there's a little effort in that. And then the other part of this possibly is to move from the center of your armpits to the tip of your elbows. All right, and then take a little walk in again. And one more of those dog poses. Up to standing. Now the advantage here is that you can really open your shoulders. Feel the clavicles from the notch of the throat to the tip of the shoulder, the long line of your lateral body, outer shoulder blades, elbows, to the little finger side of your hand. And then let's walk in and come all the way up to standing. All right, and then chairs away. And take up a block. I've been to the physiotherapist, and I had a little trouble with tennis elbow, maybe a little bit too competitive in my tennis playing. I can't imagine that, but it could be the case. And she's given me this exercise to do, which I think is really wonderful for the dorsal thoracic, for the upper part of the back. So I've got this yoga block and balancing it on my hand. And she gave me a little image to follow. So I'm a butler, and I'm putting my hand out for a tip. And then I've been able to get that tip, and now I want to pocket it and bring it around to my back pocket by rotating my shoulder forward. And then to reverse, to get my next tip, I'm going to bring my hand out again. And I've got the flat of my hand on the block, so I'm not really holding it. It's just perched there. So I'm doing this little bending forward movement, but because I've got pretty good mobility in my shoulders anyway, I don't have to bend too far forward, but any way that you can get there. And I've been getting pretty adept at this, except not with so much with my left one. So let's reverse. There's my hand out for the tip, and now I'm going to pocket it. I have tried this with a half full glass of water in a plastic cup with about that much success. So, but it is a really good movement for this upper part of your back. All right, and then let's leave that now. And with all of that warm-up that we've done, let's do a few salutes to the sun. So clear your mat, and then stand facing the short end of your mat. And I have a couple of people in the room with me. You probably should be facing me. Okay. All right, in a big sweeping gesture, inhale and bring your arms out to the side and up towards the ceiling. And same out to the side. And exhale, dive forward into a forward bend. Just keep your knees bent for our first forward bend of today. And then slide your hands up to your top shin, just below your knee. Straighten your arms, lift your chest, and lean out a little bit and telescope your chest forward. And then exhale. Let's step back into a lunge. And when your right leg is back, bend your right knee and place your knee onto the floor and open your chest forward. Let's move from here into downward facing dog pose. So stepping left foot back. Good, not holding it really, but just giving a small stretch there to the spine, to the backs of the legs. And then finding our way out of this, retracing our steps. Step right foot forward into your lunge. Lift your chest and open your chest forward. And left foot forward. And you're in your forward bend again, Uttanasana. Inhale, and a sweeping gesture of your arms out to the side. You might tilt your chin, look up, and exhale, back to base. Let's bring our hands into prayer position and cycle through, beginning with hands in Namaste. So take a breath in, and inhale, exhale, forward fold. And then forward fold, but with your hands onto your shins and opening your chest forward. Feel your shoulder blades again. Exhale, drop, and left foot back into your lunge. Left knee to the floor. Good. Lift and open your chest. Probably that's the most important part of your lunge. And then stepping back, down dog. Or a nice shoulder stretch. All right. I'm using kind of a lift up onto my fingertips to swing my left leg forward. That seems to improve my chances of getting into that lunge. So hands dome shaped and left foot forward. Right foot forward. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, back to home base, hands in prayer position. All right, let's do this all over again and do it with the back leg straight in your lunge. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, straight arms, lift your chest, look out. Exhale, right leg back. And then just lean back a little bit into the back leg and draw your left knee back. So just opening up that groin a little bit more. And downward facing dog pose. And just a breath or two, and then forward right leg, right foot. Chest open. Left foot. Inhale on, looking up. Exhale, home base. Let's go again. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And stepping back. Left foot, is it? Yes. Just testing you. And then leaning back into the left foot. You can stretch that calf muscle a little bit more. Draw your right knee back slightly towards its hip. And downward facing dog pose. All right, and then repeating our steps to come out, and left foot forward. Right foot forward. Inhale, big circle of your arms. And back to prayer. All right, let's add some standing poses here. And we can take them into the salutes. And consolidating in prayer position. Relax your shoulders. Soften your facial features. Keep your weight balanced between your forefoot and the front of your heel. Inhale, here we go. Exhale, diving. Inhale, straight arms, hold your legs. Exhale, right leg back. All right. And then lean back into your right heel and downward facing dog pose. And to move into Trikanasana, right foot forward. I'm lifting up onto my right fingertips. Swing the right foot forward towards my right hand. And then pressure into my right footprint to come up. And your right foot's turned out. Your left foot, turn it in a little bit. And raising your arms to chest height. Good. And then pause and feel back into your left leg before you move on to the right side. And lengthen out along the right leg, right hand down, left arm up. Good. And you've traveled this pathway so many times. And to make yourself present to the pose, feel your footing, feel the strong back leg, and your lateral body, and extending out, right ribs to the right. Inhale and come out. Feet turn in, feet to the left. Good. And then lengthen out over that left leg. You merely drop your left arm beneath your left shoulder, right arm up. Good. And feel like you're filling out the pose. The back body, the shoulder blades slightly forward, the buttock muscles firm, and that back leg strong. And then from your strong left foot, right foot footing, inhale and come up. Turn your feet all the way around to the right side again, and then turn your body towards the right leg. Bend over your right leg and come into downward facing dog pose. Take a few breaths there. And we're moving out of the pose. So I was mentioning I come up on my fingertips to swing my right foot forward and left foot forward. Inhale, bring your arms up. Exhale to prayer. Let's do Warrior Two pose in that sequence. Inhale. Exhale. Keep going. Lunge the left foot back this time. Good. Take another breath there so you can settle into the back leg too. And right foot back down dog. Turn your left foot out a little bit to the left at 45 degrees. Step your right foot forward to your hands. Strong right foot footprint. Come up with that leg bent this time. Extend your arms out sideways from your shoulders. Good. And then feel into your back body, into the shoulder blades. And take your arms back a little bit so they're definitely in line with the sides of your body, maybe a little bit behind the lines of your body. Look over your right shoulder. Good. Breathe. And then bending that right leg and coming, stay where you are. I lost my way. Turn your feet to the left. In Warrior Two on the left side. Mindful of the back body again, the shoulder blades. Bring the arms back a little bit. Open the top front quarters of your chest. And then we're going to turn all the way back to the right side. Turn your feet. Turn your whole body. Come into downward facing dog pose. Beautiful. Left foot forward. Right foot forward, Uttanasana. Inhale, arms up. Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale. Namaste. Take a breath or two there. And we'll finish the cycle of standing poses facing the long end of your mat. And you'll need your block again. All right, step out wide and take the block just in front of you. And let's do the forward bend straight away, a forward fold with your hands resting on the top of the block, on the high end or on the mid-range of the block. Then just shift your left hand onto the block only. Bring your right hand onto your right waist. And then turning to the right side, take your right shoulder back. Good. That's a really nice movement just by itself. And going step by step, feel into so as you turn to the right, you're a little less mindful of the left leg. Feel that footprint again. Take the right shoulder back. And then if it's comfortable for you, raise your right arm. If you know that movement's not for you today, or maybe even generally, then keep your hand onto your hip. Just turning your shoulder is enough. That's plenty. Good. Let's go the other way. And staging it. So just your hand on your hip in the beginning and turning from there. And respectful of your own shoulder joint. If you're ready to move, then extend up the left arm. Otherwise, keep your hand where it is. And then mindful of that right leg, feel your right footprint. Good. And when you bring your hands down to support both of them onto the block, nudge it forward and allow your trunk to come forward. So your weight shifted a little bit more towards the forefoot. And then from here, in this kind of long version, or wide version, I should say, of dog pose, drill in just at the front of your heel. Good. And then shuffle your feet in to come up and all the way up to standing. All right. And then let's finally get on to some back bending movements. So simple bridge poses. Take up your block and lie on your back. Once you're lying on your back, have your feet on the floor and relatively close to your buttocks. And nuzzle your shoulder blades into the mat like you did at the wall. Lift your buttocks just slightly off the floor and see if you can lengthen your tailbone away from you. And then your buttocks firmly resting onto the floor. Take up your block and place it on the narrowest range between your thighs, just above your knees. And step your feet in a little bit closer too. Notice which part of your anatomy that you're working with when you're pressing against the block and wakening up the inner thigh muscles. And then bring the flat of your hands onto your outer hips, where the outer hip muscles, the outer buttock muscles are. And then lift up just a fraction off the floor, but mainly from the outside of your hips. So as though your hands are helping you lift up from that area and pressing against the block at the same time. And then lower back down. And file away that sensation of lifting from the outside of your hips. Release your arms out to the side again. And then press on the inside of your feet, on your big toe and your inner heel, and press against the block. And then let's be maybe it's counterintuitive, but press on the outside of your feet, little toe side and outer heel, at the same time as you're pressing against the block. So kind of balancing the use of the muscles around the pelvis and around the buttocks, the gluteals. And then with that pressure on your feet against the block, start to lift up. And where are you lifting? And seeing whether you can still lift from the outside of your hips. Release any tension around the tailbone. And then release back to the floor. So that was like a lot to think about as you're lifting up. But in the main, those tiny muscles around the base of your spine, the coccyx, keep them released as you're lifting up more from the outside of your hips and also from your hamstrings. All right, and lowering down again. Pause there, completely at rest. Take up the block and rotate it so it's on mid-range now. Same spot between the lower thighs. And then press the little toe side of the foot, the outer heel. Press against the block. Begin to lift up. You might feel the tailbone moving away from the rest of the spine as you're lifting up. And the outer hips are helping you. And back down to the ground. And just to get a sense of that a little bit more, coming up one more time. So not lifting so much from the pubic bone, but from the outer hips. And down you come. All right, let's try one more variation. And taking the block nice and wide and between the lower thighs. And your feet are very wide now too. Now bring the tips of your fingers to the backs of your thighs, and that's palpating your hamstrings, the backs of your thighs. And when I'm at rest like this, the muscles are loose on the bone. So with a little lift now, pressing against the block, pressing the outer foot, feel the hamstrings engage to help you lift up as much as the outer hips and the tailbone releasing. And coming up a little bit higher than you've been possibly. And lowering back down. And give one more of those a go. And since this is the last time working with the block like this, hamstrings, outer hips, tiny muscles around the coccyx, let them go. And exhale down. All right, let's test the work that we've done so far with the hips and the hamstring help. And bring your feet closer in. Take the block away. Turn your palms over so your palms can press into the mat, so that you can use your upper arms to press down. You can feel your shoulder blades engage. And then press into your footprint, inner footprint, outer footprint, and begin to lift up. And then let's see how we go there in a little more challenging work to press into your left foot, bend your right knee towards your chest, and then extend your right leg up towards the ceiling. So you've got a one-legged bridge here. Fold your knee down, lower down, and consolidate and see how that was for your body. And in reverse, feel your right footprint strong. Press into your right foot. Bend your left knee into your chest. And then as you lift your hips high, extend the left leg. Good. Feel your shoulder blades, the upper shoulder edges of the shoulder blades pressing in, your hands pressing down, and then folding that leg down. And knees to chest. And rock a little bit on your sacrum and your lower back, if that feels nice for your back ease. And then we're going to move on to place ourselves face down on the mat in Sphinx pose. So take your time, rolling over onto your belly. And when you're in Sphinx, you're on your elbows. So a version of this is to have your arms a little further out to the side, maybe off your mat. And I've just lowered myself down, so not propped up on my elbows so much. And let's call this goalpost position. So you've got a right angle at your elbows, your palms open, your fingers stretched out, thumb stretched out. And then you can rest here on your forehead or on your chin and do a little hip waggle. So the lower back, the buttock muscles loose on the bones. And then merely press into your palms, press into your wrists and your forearms, press into your elbows, and begin to peel up away from the floor and lifting your head. I have a habit of tensing, clutching my buttocks. So I'm reminding myself to stay loose there for a little while longer. Tuck your toes under, so curl your toes under, your feet more or less perpendicular to the floor, and then straighten as you push back into your heels. The outer hips are still rotating out and pressing into the floor. And inhale and come up and press your chest forward. Press your shoulder blades forward. Good. And then lower down. See how much you can let go. Your feet are still curled under and shoulders as relaxed as they can be. Let's do one more round. The outer hips pressing towards the floor. Perhaps you can lift your navel a little bit. And then as you press back into your legs are firm, and then tighten those hamstrings again from the backs of your knees to your buttocks. Good. And the front chest opening forward. Very nice. And then come down, fold your arms, and rest your head onto your folded hands, either to the side or your forehead resting in the middle on your hands. Okay, and then let's make this a little deeper bend for your upper back. Come up onto your elbows as you probably did in the beginning, where you're propped up on your elbows, but your elbows are underneath your shoulders. You've already lifted up partially into a back bend, so take a moment to release the muscles around the tailbone, roll the outer hips out, and then once more tuck your toes under, straighten back into your heels, knees lift up, the hamstrings switch on, and feel like you're pulling your elbows back towards your hips as you press your chest forward. If you can discover the top front corners of your chest and through using your upper back and your shoulder blades pressing forward. All right, and then let's release from that and coming down and resting your head onto your hands. I think we have time for one more back bend here, and it's one of the classic ones. It's Shalabhasana, the Locust pose. So start with your forehead resting on the mat and your arms straight back by your side. Do a little bit of that hip waggle side to side. And then from here, roll your shoulders back. Lengthen your arms even further down towards your legs. Take a moment and connect with these various parts of your anatomy, your lovely body, and tuck the tailbone away from you towards that space between your heels. Your legs are relatively close together or all the way together. Press on the tops of your feet this time as you straighten your knees. Hamstrings strong. Then press your hands down and begin to peel up away from the floor. And where are you looking? Out towards the horizon is plenty. Good. And then to get that little bit more left from the corners of your chest, lift up your arms as well. Hands just as high as your hips, or even a little bit lower, and then roll your shoulders back. Press your breast plate forward. Good. And then release down, fold your arms again, rest your head sideways or on your forehead. And take a little break from your back bends here. Just bend up your legs. And then with your knees bent and your knees slightly apart, circle your feet. And that movement never goes astray. Such a lovely ankle movement. And the other way. Are they circles or are they ellipses or rhomboids? Does one foot circle differently than the other? Okay, good. And then give them a little bit of a shake out and come into your version of child's pose and propping yourself up. And gradually bringing your chest up, your head up, roll your buttocks back towards your heels. And at this stage, you might not come all the way back because it's moving from a back bending sequence to forward bending. All right, and then let's counter pose with some seated poses. So come on up. You probably need a blanket, so grab yourself a blanket. Or if you can't quite sit comfortably enough just on the propping up on a blanket, you can also use a bolster. So have a seat on one of those, threefold blanket perhaps, or a bolster. And then bring your legs out into the splits. If you're propped up high, it's really easy to slip off your your throne there. So make sure that your buttock bones are fully supported onto your prop. And I had a really nice bit of learning from a video that I watched long ago of Richard Freeman, who's actually an Ashtanga teacher. And what he suggested is that when you're in these seated poses, you could include Baddha Konasana, Bandha Angle pose, that you're moving your pubic bone towards the floor to come a little more forward, so away from your tailbone and closer to sitting right in the middle of your perineum. So let's see if that's true for you, if you can move your pubic bone down a little bit. Then let's take this as a forward bend to stretch out those hamstrings. And if that's too strong for you, keep your knees a little bit bent as you go forward. Mindful of the spinal column, and if you're finding you're beginning to bow, you might even come up onto your fingertips, easing outwards more than going down. Good. And then flex your feet, sort of mid-range in between dorsiflexion and plantarflexion, so the ankle joint still feels relaxed. Let's move into a rotation here. So drawing your hands back, turn towards the right leg and bring your hands on either side of the right leg. I'm up on my fingertips again. I think that gives me a feeling of length through my body, my spine elongated. And as I'm turning towards the right leg, I'm turning through those organs that I mentioned in an early pose, the organs of elimination and digestion, kind of a squeezy feeling through the abdomen. And then bring the left hand across towards the outside of your right leg. Prop yourself up again, nice and tall through the spinal column, looking to the right side. Good. Swap it over and all the way around to the left. And start just in that intention to create a kind of dignified lift through the frontal body. And then when you're ready, right hand across for that extra momentum in rotating. And the bottom of the torso, the lowest part of the torso, turning to the left side. The middle, where the navel center is, turning to the left side. But you're still lifted on the lateral body. Good work. And then back to center, and probably your hamstrings need a little bit of a rest. So reach on the inside of the knees, pull your knees up towards your chest. And I have slipped off my bolster, so coming back to center myself. And then just your left leg straight and your right leg bent out to the side. Take advantage of the props that you have near you. And if that knee needs support, then have a block underneath it. So the forward stretch part of this, so lining up along the left leg and extending out over it. So in my early days of doing yoga, the forward stretches were the ones that were the most inaccessible. And probably my best teachers, except I really didn't appreciate them very much. So probably I have more patience now. Take time. Where your goal is just to keep the length and openness through the chest, through the heart center, really feel it elevated. And then let's work into a rotation. Pull back first. Bring your right hand across to the outside of your left leg. Bring your left hand around the back, towards the back body. I'm just going to place my left hand onto the bolster, or you could do that on the blanket. And then press your right hand, press your left hand, lift up and turn. From the lower torso, from the mid-torso. Let your neck turn. Good. If you've created tension on your right side, relax that right thigh. Relax the right groin as much as you can. And then let's change. With your left leg bent out to the side, we're going outwards along the right leg. So even here there's a slight rotation, so you can line up midline of your chest with the midline of your right leg. And just making the discoveries that there are to make about your own body. I thought that my left leg was tighter generally, but today, who knows why, my right hamstrings are a bit reluctant in the stretch. All right, and then the rotation, left hand on the outside of the right leg, right hand behind you. When you press your hands down, then you can lift and open your chest again. Beautiful. And bringing the rotation into the lowest part of your torso, moving up a little bit. The ribs turn to the shoulders, the neck and the head. Beautiful. Back to center. And extend out that left leg. And then simple cross-legged position. And I think that's its official name, even though it's not always simple for everybody. So make sure that you've got the props that you need to sit cross-legged just for a short moment. And reach under and feel where you can draw the buttock flesh away from the sitting bones, so that that's not just perfunctorily sitting on them, but you can feel them underneath you. And rest your hands onto your thighs. And sitting from the base of your spine, the mid-spine, the upper spine, and all the muscles supporting the spine and the shoulders relaxed. And then turn to the left leg, right hand, left knee. Bring your left hand behind you, and with a really gentle rotation. Bringing back the breath emphasis. How much can you turn just with the help of the breath, with no grit or muscles involved, just turning with a few long exhalations. Good. Turn back to center. Reverse your cross-legged. Once you establish that, then turn to the right, left hand, right knee, right hand behind you. Sitting tall. Even here, allow the shoulder blades to support you. Feel them moving in closer to the spine. Look right. Good. And then releasing. And it's just now time to move into the yoga relaxation. So take all those props that you need. In the main, probably a blanket used as a pillow, and possibly that bolster underneath the backs of your knees. And what's important here is that when you're lying down, that you find your own best comfort. So whatever instructions I give may not completely satisfy your body. So take some height underneath your head and your neck if that's comfortable. I'm quite comfortable without any support like that. So being propless. Always good to start out with your legs bent and your feet on the floor, just to feel what it's like to settle through the pelvis, the buttock muscles, the side hip muscles. And you might decide to stay there with your legs bent, or place the legs over a bolster, or straighten them out. And taking time after you've closed your eyes or covered your eyes with a soft cloth or an eye pillow. And we'll take time to sort of meet and greet all the various parts of your body, from your feet to your head, a body scan. So starting with your toes, see if you can feel the toes individually. Right side, left side. And the numerous bones of your feet. The right ankle, the left ankle, the bones there, and the heel bones. And as I bring awareness to these parts, mentioning these parts, see if you can relax them a little bit more. and the two bones of the lower leg, right leg, left leg, and the knee bones that mediate between the lower leg and the upper leg, and that thigh bone, the long bone of the thigh, into the hip socket, the housing of the thigh, and releasing any gripping along the legs. Feel the pelvis, the shape that it takes, like a bowl, where the organs of elimination and digestion rest in that bowl. The hip bones at the front, the pelvic rim at the back, where the sacrum fits between the fused bones, alleged fused bones of the sacrum, the coccyx, and moving along to feel at the back waist, the back ribs, the shoulder blades, and at the front, the connection with the diaphragm, the long bone of the sternum, the upper ribs, and the clavicles, and right out to the edges of them, and the arms, the upper limbs, the fingers, the bones of the hands, the several bones of the wrists, the two bones of the forearms, and the elbow joint that mediates between them and the upper arm bone, the humerus, into the shoulder socket. And take a moment to feel the breath in the area of the throat, creating relaxation through the walls of the throat, and a softening through the neck, the front, back, and sides. And the features of the face relaxed. The scalp loose over the skull. The ears relaxed. The earlobes. The jaw slightly slack. Allow your eyes to settle even more into their respective hollows, floating. And finally feel the breath just at the tip of your nose that enters and leaves your nostrils. And staying with the waves of the breath.
and the waves of the breath experienced in the whole of your body, from toe tips to fingertips to top of your head, the whole body, alive and refreshed by your practice. And thinking now of moving again, very slowly bending your legs and curling over onto one side in a sort of a hug position before coming up. And slowly and gently coming up to take your seat. With or without props. And we could complete the practice in a traditional way, where joining hands in front of the chest creates a gesture, in Sanskrit a mudra, the whole shape and intention of the gesture drawing you nearer to yourself, your essential self, where you can connect in gratitude for the practice of yoga and being able to come together in friendship and goodwill. Namaste. Thank you. We'll sign off in a minute, but I just wanted to let you know that next week starts a new month. That's probably not news. You're probably thinking, how can it be March coming already? And a new theme for the March classes. I've been enjoying theming the classes, and that's been inspiration from Libby. Thank you. And next month is about balance. So, so that is always a good theme, whether it's mental, emotional, and definitely physical balance. So, hope to see you next week. Thank you.